Hi guys, welcome back to Adult Speech Therapy. My name is Danetta Davis. I am a medical speech language pathologist, and today I want to take the time to explain Wernicke's aphasia. If you are subscribed, thank you so very much. If you are not subscribed and you find value in this video, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I am trying to reach as many people as possible who can absolutely benefit from these videos. And again, I thank you so much. Now, when you hear Wernicke's aphasia, I want you to think of poor language comprehension. Wernicke's aphasia, also known as receptive aphasia, is a language disorder that primarily affects a person's ability to understand spoken language. Individuals with this condition can usually hear sounds normally, and many are able to speak fluently with normal rhythm and prosody. However, although speech sounds effortless, they often cannot accurately understand what is being said to them, and their own speech may lack meaningful content. The underlying problem is not hearing, it's language comprehension. So, what really happens in the brain? Wernicke's aphasia occurs because of damage to an area of the brain known as Wernicke's area, which serves as one of the brain's primary language comprehension centers. This region is typically located in the left temporal lobe, which is the dominant hemisphere for language in most people. I often describe Wernicke's aphasia as the brain's internal translator. Now, normally, spoken words follow a fairly organized pathway through the brain. First, sound reaches the primary auditory cortex, where the physical sounds of speech are detected. And at this stage, the person hears perfectly normally. The information is then sent to Wernicke's area, and this is where the brain decodes language by assigning meaning to the sounds that were just heard. Wernicke's area performs lexical retrieval and semantic integration, meaning it matches the sound patterns of words to the brain's internal dictionary so that language becomes meaningful. When this region is damaged, that decoding process ultimately breaks down. So the individual can hear every sound correctly, but the brain can no longer successfully extract the meaning behind those words. So in many ways, spoken language begins to resemble a completely unfamiliar foreign language. The words are heard clearly, but they are no longer understood. So what causes Wernicke's aphasia? The most common cause is an ischemic stroke, particularly one involving the posterior inferior division of the middle cerebral artery. This artery supplies oxygen-rich blood to many of the brain's language centers. However, Wernicke's aphasia may also develop from traumatic brain injury, a brain tumor, a neurodegenerative disease such as Alzheimer's disease, primary progressive aphasia, or other neurological conditions that damaged the language network. So now, why can someone speak fluently but not make sense? This is actually one of the most fascinating aspects of Wernicke's aphasia, and this is what a lot of clinicians would refer to this phenomenon as word salad. The explanation lies in the fact that different language functions are handled by different brain regions. So while Wernicke's area is primarily responsible for understanding language and, of course, selecting meaningful words, Broca's area, located in the frontal lobe, is responsible for the motor planning and production of speech. Broca's area organizes grammar, sentence structure, and the physical movements necessary for speaking. In Wernicke's aphasia, Broca's area is often relatively intact, and because of this, speech remains fluent, smooth, and pretty effortless. The problem is that Wernicke's area can no longer provide Broca's area with the correct semantic information. So instead of sending meaningful language forward, damaged language networks may generate incorrect words, unrelated words, or entirely new made-up words. The result is that speech sounds grammatically normal but carries very little meaningful information. And this is a phenomenon commonly referred to as word salad. Okay, now why don't patients realize their speech doesn't make any sense? Another hallmark feature of Wernicke's aphasia is something called anosognosia, which refers to reduced awareness of one's own impairment. Many individuals with Wernicke's aphasia genuinely believe they are communicating normally. And this happens because the brain's internal language monitoring system has also been disrupted. So, since the same language network responsible for understanding speech is damaged, it often cannot accurately evaluate the person's own speech output. And as a result, the patient hears their own language as if it were perfectly normal and may even become confused when listeners appear puzzled or may ask for clarification. One of the most encouraging milestones during recovery is when a patient begins to notice their own language errors. Early after injury, damage to Wernicke's area often prevents the brain from recognizing communication breakdowns. As recovery progresses and language networks begin reorganizing, the patient may gradually develop awareness that their spoken words are not matching their intended message. And when that awareness begins to emerge, it generally tells us that the brain is becoming better at processing auditory feedback and monitoring language output. Now, clinically, this often changes the direction of therapy. Instead of focusing primarily on basic language comprehension, treatment can begin incorporating self-monitoring and self-correction strategies because the patient is now capable of recognizing many of their own communication errors. Developing self-awareness is one of the most meaningful clinical signs of neurological recovery that we observe in individuals with Wernicke's aphasia. Thank you so much for spending time together. If you found value in this video, go ahead and subscribe. Check out these other 2 videos as well, and I'll see you in my next one. Take care.